Washington's juvenile justice system spiraling out of control.
I mean, it's broken. It's just not working.
As violence erupts in packed facilities, the head of DCYF defends his handling of a state agency in crisis. The long reach of Mexican drug cartels gripping Western Washington.
So up I-5 is Sinaloa cartel-controlled country.
A DEA special agent in charge reveals the underworld trends that cost lives in our communities. Crime is a family affair in West Seattle.
I feel like it's a form of child abuse to raise children to be criminals.
A group of grown-ups enlisting children to rip off small businesses. And tonight, they're in the spotlight.
The Spotlight brought to you by Beacon Plumbing.
Good evening and welcome to the Spotlight. Thank you for joining us. I'm David Rose. And we begin with juvenile justice in Washington and one state facility in particular that is plagued with problems like riots, drugs, and overcrowding. State legislators and the governor's own appointees are lining up to call for a change in leadership at the Department of Children, Youth, and Families that operates Green Hill School. Now the Spotlight's Matthew Smith has video showing you exactly what's going on inside that has the head of the DCYF defending his job.
I made a decision that was about safety, and I'm going to continue to make decisions that are focused initially on safety, because I can't run therapy without safety.
It's the head of DCYF defending his job. In the months leading up to this rare sit-down interview, Secretary Ross Hunter has painted himself and his agency into a corner.
This is a problem that arose over time.
In court, DCYF has lost battles after it tried to move young adults ahead of schedule. Then they settled a lawsuit with 13 counties that were fed up that the agency had closed its doors to juvenile inmates, forcing those counties to scramble for solutions on a single day's notice. Each move made to clear an overcrowding crisis. But this never-before-seen security footage obtained by Fox 13 shows just how dire the situation is. This is Green Hill, the state's juvenile detention facility for its oldest inmates. And this didn't happen overnight. Some of the videos you see here date all the way back to the beginning of the year. One man, a former staffer, was so fearful of retaliation, he would only speak on a condition of anonymity. Even his voice had to be changed.
I slowly saw it start to deteriorate, but now basically it's just turned into a runaway train with no brakes, just straight downhill. I don't know what happened. It just became comments of, you knew it. That's just the job you signed up for. No, that's not the job I signed up for. I didn't sign up to facilitate drug use in a correctional facility. I didn't sign up to be forced to take abuse.
And he isn't alone. More than a dozen current or recently employed staffers spoke with Fox 13, each on a condition of anonymity, each painting a picture of a workplace they fear, describing riots, daily assaults on staff, and frequent exposure to dangerous drugs. But leadership knew that. Their own surveys showed that 60% of staff feared for their safety. That's nearly 3 times the national average. And while national standards indicate that Green Hill should top out around 150 inmates, the state deemed the facility was safe for 180, a number it surpassed and remained above 13 months prior to ever admitting it was in the midst of a crisis.
Your own numbers say 180 is the safe number, so why not make those moves sooner?
I
mean, I didn't come up with the 180 number.
No, I came up.
Yeah,
right,
you all
I
did.
I mean, we did. We looked at the numbers and said, this is the number that this system is designed for, that we can operate safely. Can we operate a little bit over that? Yeah. Can we operate a lot over that? No.
But this is how they were operating months earlier. A staff member approached, punches rained down. She goes into the fetal position. Nearly a dozen blows land before the older inmates step in to rescue her. It's video never seen by the public until our team obtained it.
There's a level of tension that's palpable when you walk in. You can walk in and you know something's going to happen that day. It's very legitimate, and staff are scared. My biggest fear is someone's going to get killed.
But staff and inmates are often the victims. Watch as just one lone worker is on a wing with 8 inmates. 2 individuals approach a third and just begin wailing on him. Chaos erupts. Suddenly, 4 inmates are kneeing, punching, and kicking yet another young man. That staffer? Well, her only option is to back away and call for help. Eventually, a second worker appears, but by then a teen inmate has turned a clipboard into a weapon, shattering it over someone's head before he starts to hurl milk.
We're concerned about the safety of a facility that's that overcrowded.
But Secretary Hunter continued to shift blame to counties and courts for not predicting which inmates would be sent his way. He even seemed surprised by an uptick in inmates post-pandemic.
We don't really know how many people the counties are prosecuting.
So you are watching. So if I were to go back in my own news reports and look at like what we were reporting on in the court system and the backlog that was being created, I wouldn't see that there's a backlog of juveniles.
See a backlog of court, but when is that? What are they going to do with those? We don't see that.
Probably send them to carceral settings, correct?
Hard to say.
His only admission that he should have warned counties sooner.
And mea culpa for not doing more notification to counties. That's something in hindsight I wish I'd done more of.
Legislators like Mary Leavitt and Travis Couture have seen enough. Both are publicly calling for Hunter's resignation. And with Governor Inslee's overhaul of juvenile justice now on the line, his own handpicked advisory board is urging the governor in writing to, quote, recognize the failure of DCYF leadership and recommend that Secretary Ross Hunter be removed from his role.
When other people in the industry question whether you should be in this position, does that concern you that there was better options out there that could guide this in a better direction?
You know, my job, like I said, I have a hard job. I face challenging decisions. I make decisions based on what I think the right thing to do is, and I'm going to continue to do that.
If you receive that call from Governor Inslee to explain the situation that we're in, do you think you have his confidence?
I came to work yesterday focused on safety, came to work today focused on safety, tend to come to work tomorrow focused on safety.
That was the Spotlight's Matthew Smith reporting. Governor Inslee's chief of staff responded to his advisory board, but Ross Hunter's name was not mentioned in that response. Whatever happens next, we will bring it to you here on the Spotlight. Now, a horrific case of juvenile crime caught on camera in the Westwood area of West Seattle. 5 teenage girls dragged a woman screaming for help off a bus, repeatedly hitting her and kicking her before stealing her shopping bag. EMTs found her on the sidewalk, her hair torn out, blood on her face and clothes. She had to be taken to the emergency room for her injuries. This is a case I've been tracking through the courts since it happened earlier this year. Based on the initial police investigation, King County prosecutors charged the 5 suspects between 12 and 17 years old with robbery second degree. That was before 3 of the teens provided their alibis. They were already on electronic home monitoring for previous charges, and their trackers showed that each of them was in a different city at the time of the attack. The other 2 suspects did not catch a break. Prosecutors are moving forward with the case against them. Their actions, caught on video, will be hard to defend. Surveillance video from King County's H-line in the late afternoon of March 8th showed the victim get on the bus and sit in the rear section near the exit. After the first stop at the Burien Transit Center, a large group of teens got on and went to the back of the bus, then started vaping, smoking weed, and taunting a passenger. And one of the suspects sat in the chair across from her. When the bus stopped again, a 13-year-old girl grabbed the victim by her ponytail, dragged her off the bus, and threw her on the sidewalk. The victim told police she tried to hang onto the pole while yelling for help in Spanish. But no one came to her aid. Outside, 5 girls started hitting and kicking her before stealing her bag with the $375 in purchases she'd made for her family. As she lay stunned and bleeding, the guys who had boarded with the girls just stared at the injured victim while laughing and walked away.
As we see the juvenile involvement in violent crime go up, we're going to need to respond to this much more, I think, proactively than we are so far.
Law enforcement leaders fear there is no end in sight to heartless crimes like this unless tougher legislation is passed.
The solution, I think, is going to be a complex one that is going to require us to get out of our corners a little bit and understand that juveniles do need to be held accountable when necessary, 100%. At the same time, nobody wants juveniles to be permanently labeled. That's that balance we have to strike, but it's going to be really challenging, I'm here to tell you.
It's been 20 years since a vibrant 37-year-old woman disappeared from her house in Snohomish County before being found murdered. Her killer has never been identified. Tonight, Snohomish County major crimes detectives are asking for your help to solve this case. Kelly Sarston worked as a gravel truck driver. 4 years after her body was found in the Pilchuck River in 2004, I sat down with her 3 sisters who talked about the case at that time for the only time and the very first time. They told me Kelly loved the outdoors, snowmobiling, and trucks. Kelly is featured as the ace of diamonds in the deck of cold case playing cards that was handed out to Snohomish County inmates in hopes of generating tips.
She's very sparkly, and she loved diamonds. And, you know, it's kind of this ace personality. So when I heard that was her card, it's like it fit so perfectly.
On the day Kelly vanished from her home on North Machias Road near Lake Stevens, her neighbors saw her sitting on the porch. That was August 18th. The next day, deputies located her remains in the Pilchuck River. Her sisters say her death was no random killing. They are convinced she was murdered by someone she knew.
With no violence necessarily in the house or on the back porch, you know, things tipped over or anything. Everything just left nice and quiet as if it was, that she probably knew who it was.
Kelly Sarston's family has waited 2 decades for somebody to come forward with information. Anyone who knows what happened in this cold case homicide is urged to call the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office tip line at 425-388-3845, or you can remain anonymous when you submit a tip to Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound by using the P3 Tips app, or go to p3tips.com. The Drug Enforcement Administration says overdose is the leading cause of death for adults 18 to 45, more than traffic accidents, more than cancer, more than gun violence. Last year, more than 110,000 people nationwide died from an overdose. To illustrate how bad it is here, on Tuesday alone this week, the King County Medical Examiner reported 6 overdose deaths ranging from heroin to cocaine to meth to fentanyl. More than 690 people have overdosed so far this year in King County. Snohomish County's opioid-related deaths hit an all-time high of 269 last year, with fentanyl involved in 95% of those cases. The county is set to launch a mobile opioid treatment program sometime this fall. A van with healthcare workers will travel parts of Highway 2 and 530, providing opioid addiction medication and other recovery services. The annual cost to keep the program going is around $900,000. 5 people were arrested recently in connection to trafficking fentanyl into Whatcom County for years. The Whatcom County Sheriff's Office identified and arrested the alleged kingpin, Mikel Escandon Tabilin, following a months-long investigation that started in May 2024. The Whatcom Gang and Drug Task Force recovered about 70 pounds of narcotics worth up to $1 million. The sheriff says the operation seized about 145,000 fentanyl pills trafficked from Snohomish County into Whatcom County. That's enough to give one pill to more than half the population of the county.
These drug dealers are coming into our communities and trying to hide and really make money on the backs of the deaths and the struggle of people. So we're certainly committed to finding those folks.
Investigators also uncovered evidence of a suspect using a 3D printer to manufacture untraceable ghost guns. They served a search warrant on the home of 34-year-old Austin Grimm of Bellingham, where they recovered the 3D printer that they say was used to manufacture automatic firearms. Homeland Security and the DEA played key roles in the big bust. I sat down with Dave Reams, the special agent in charge of the DEA's Seattle office, for a wide-ranging conversation about guns, drugs, and how the cartels have shifted their business recently here in Western Washington. In a lot of these big busts we've seen, there's drugs, there's cash, and a lot of guns, and ghost guns especially. Why are we seeing so many ghost guns associated with drug trafficking?
Well, drug trafficking by its nature lends itself to violence. So traffickers use guns to protect themselves, use guns to intimidate the competition, they use guns to protect their source of supply and their routes. So violence is sort of inherent in the program. And so ghost guns are just another evolution of that. With the advent of 3D printing, it's so easy to get a hold of guns, and that's one avenue they don't have to worry about. So buying a gun through a traditional means, there's a serial number, you have a buyer, you have someone you can point to as the purchaser. You don't have that with ghost guns. They can just be printed by someone at their house. So they're untraceable.
When I look at the things that are killing people from overdose, fentanyl, cocaine, I see methamphetamine right up there. Is methamphetamine still a huge problem here in Western Washington?
Methamphetamine is a crisis. It's a huge problem. If it weren't for fentanyl being so lethal, we'd be talking about the methamphetamine crisis right now. It's the same proportion. Fentanyl sort of overshadows it because fentanyl is so much more lethal, but we're seeing amounts of methamphetamine I've never seen before in my life. You don't have small home labs making methamphetamine anymore. It's all large-scale production facilities in Mexico creating very, very high purity methamphetamine. High 90s, 100% pure meth is what we're seeing today. We're hundreds of pounds of it. And not a week goes by we don't seize multiple pounds of methamphetamine.
He says one change they've seen from the cartels is how fentanyl is being trafficked. There were fewer pills on the streets, but more powder now. Powder that can be mixed in with other drugs or pressed into pills by local dealers. More dangerous in your mind?
It can be much more dangerous. Fentanyl's fentanyl, but powdered fentanyl, we're seeing purities rising into the 80s and 90%.
The cartels make the fentanyl for pennies on the dollar. So even if a pill is sold for 30 cents to $1, they're still making a sizable profit.
Those cartels make fentanyl in their laboratories in Mexico. So they can make as much as they want, as many chemicals as they buy. That's the amount of fentanyl they can make. There's no growing season. They can make as much as they want. So they have an economy of scale. They can produce it very cheaply and send to the United States.
Are we seeing more cocaine trafficked into Washington?
Yes, we are. That is on track this year to be fairly substantially increased from last year. It's all money. It's all the Sinaloa cartel controls the trafficking routes in the west coast of the United States. So up I-5 is Sinaloa cartel-controlled country. Back in June, we had a case with the Seattle police where we had a street-level buy of methamphetamine here about 18 months ago in Seattle. The investigators from DEA and the Seattle police tracked that methamphetamine back to the Sinaloa cartel and then back to Colombia, the producers of the cocaine that was a part of that organization. So on the June takedown, in Operation Red Rose was the name of the operation. In the June takedown, we arrested, Columbia National Police helped us, as well as other agencies here in town, arrested the producers, the distributors, the retailers here in the Seattle area, as well as the money launderers. We took the whole weed out from the root. So that's the sort of thing that Sinaloa cartel offers, is like a from beginning to end kind of control of the process. And that's what DEA is trying to fight against.
They're gearing up now to give out a large amount of school supplies and backpacks at student events where this DEA Hummer seized from a drug dealer and wrapped in their one pill can kill message will be on display.
It's impossible to really know what's in something you're taking. So don't trust anybody. If it's a friend giving you something, if it's a dealer selling you something, assume anything has fentanyl in it and could possibly kill you.
Police in Skagit County are investigating a triple murder. At the center of that investigation is this man, 49-year-old Jason Berman. On August 9th in the town of Concrete, investigators found the bodies of 52-year-old Erin Berman, her 19-year-old son, Taylor Dawson, and Taylor's 18-year-old girlfriend, Jillian Van Boven. The home they were in had been set on fire, and investigators determined all three had been shot. Friends of the victims sent me these photos showing how different Jason Berman looks as opposed to the photo first released by Mount Vernon Police, the one in the middle. He's heavier and he wears glasses. Berman is known to hang around Skagit and Whatcom counties. He's wanted for murder in the second degree. He's also an avid four-wheeler. Jillian's dad says his daughter had just graduated high school, had her entire life ahead of her, and wanted to work in law enforcement.
How lucky am I to be able to spend like all those years with this special person. I texted I love you, and then I got the news, and I couldn't, it just took a while to set in. And then it just hits you, you know, it's like this can't be happening.
If you see Jason Berman, call 911. If you have any information on where he's hiding, who might be helping him hide, or anything at all about how to find his blue pickup truck that's still missing, please reach out to Mount Vernon Police. It's a shameful way to shoplift, adults using kids to carry out the crime. That's how several businesses in West Seattle were ripped off recently. Spotlight's AJ Janavel spoke with one owner who says the adults did the distracting while the kids did the dirty work.
It's like a organized family, crime using children to make money for themselves is alarming.
3 separate businesses on California Avenue in Seattle tell me the criminal group targeted them. All of the businesses hit are in the Alaska Junction neighborhood, just a few hundred feet from one another.
it's so hard on a small business when something like that happens.
Jen Young is the owner of My Three Little Birds. She tells me the group ransacked her shop and got away with about $1,000 in goods, traumatizing her employees in the process.
And the women would sort of talk to them or ask questions and sort of distract, while the kids were like ripping packages open and like it was just chaos.
According to Seattle police data, the Alaska Junction neighborhood where the crimes happened has seen more than 300 reports of property crime this year. But Young tells me the worst part about this crime is not about the money.
As a parent, that bothers me. As a woman who owns a children's store, that bothers me. I feel like it's a form of child abuse to raise children to be criminals and not really give them a chance to make up their own minds about that.
For the Spotlight, I'm AJ Janavel.
Seattle police say they are investigating. That does it for this time on the Spotlight. Until next week, I'm David Rose. Please stay safe.